Hey gang, welcome to the first official, I guess I can say, episode of the Rewind and Revive podcast. I say this because the last episode was a bit of a solo trial run, but it looks like I'm confident enough to bring on some lovely folks for today's discussion. And today's chat is on a film I have refused to shut up for weeks now, maybe even a month. I even blabbered on about it in my critics group and forced some of the guys there to watch it. Shout out to Matthew and Dakota. Thank you very much.
Shout out
But
Dakota.
the movie in question is Mario Bava's Danger Diabolik from 1968. And guess what? It's not a giallo, it's not a horror movie, but it still has Bava's glorious fingertips all over it. I think for fans of his filmography who perhaps haven't seen this yet, you'll likely geek out about it as much as I have. But to help me out today, I asked two of my very, very close friends to come on. They also run their own podcast, which is an absolute delight to listen to, and they've been running it for quite some time now. But it's my pleasure to introduce Ash, Laskey, and Harry Argyle of the Love, Death, and Movies podcast. Hello, you two. How are you?
Actually, go first.
I'm great. Thanks for having us. I know I just did a podcast with this guy. Well, obviously our own, we do it every week, but we just did a guest podcast together last week, and now we're doing it again. I can't get away from him, I guess.
Yeah, we're a package deal. You know the movie Step Brothers? It's like that.
Yes.
You know, it's like where they interview with each other. We're in like the tuxedos with the tails in it and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm great.
I love it. And it's so great to have you guys back on this podcast because it's been a really long time since we've done this. We used to go back and forth, and it's been quite a few months now.
Yeah, it's been way too long. When was the last time we were on a podcast with Marta?
It's been almost a year, I'm pretty sure. I think around August, maybe?
Yeah. Because I went with Ash, you and I guested together on something. What was it?
What was that?
Oh, this is-
You know what? We did do that. We did the YouTube live. So I guess I did
yeah,
technically.
Chris.
Yeah.
Jackass of all trades. Shout out to his YouTube channel. But yeah, we haven't done this in a while. I'm glad you guys are here. And I guess before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode and break down what we're going to chat about, I was thinking we just do a letterbox synopsis of the movie because that's what we always do. How's that sound?
Sick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Beautiful. So, quote for Danger Diabolik. Out of all he can take, seduce, or get away with, international man of mystery Diabolik and his sensuous lover Eva Kant pull off heist after heist while European cops led by Inspector Ginkgo and envious mobsters led by Ralph Valmont are closing in on them. End quote. So, some context for all of you listeners. The film is based on the Italian comic series Diabolik by Angela and Luciana Giussani. Apologies if I butchered that. And I'll try and insert an image for listeners of what these comics looked like, but I did want to show you two in case you haven't seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Reminds
Right?
me of the Phantom. Remember the Phantom back in the day?
I love that you're bringing that up because we're gonna get there too.
Oh, I'm too quick.
But-
I'm too quick, Ash. I'm too quick.
But yeah, so Diabolik, played by John Philip Lott, and we'll get into another role of his in a bit. And Ava, his sensuous lover, as Letterboxd put it, she's played by Marissa Mell. I'll also have more to say on that role later on. But for now, sidebar. I know I mentioned it to you briefly, Ash, but doesn't she look like Olivia Wilde, like shockingly?
She does. But then I think I also told you I was getting like Goldie Hawn, Kate Hudson vibes as well.
Like a mix.
Definitely. Mhm.
Harry, anything you want to add?
I was thinking like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Margot Robbie.
They all
Okay,
work.
yeah.
Yeah.
All of the
Yeah,
things.
Either
She's
way,
just-
holy smokes, you know?
Yeah.
Either
Smoke show
way.
list.
Wow.
One of my critics friends, Matthew, he was watching this and he texted me and he was like, "That's the hottest couple I've seen in a
Yeah.
movie." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes."
When they're covered in money, like there's only so far you can go down. Like
Yeah.
that's insane.
It's brutal. I know. So, game plan for today. I thought we should cover some information on Bava, the movie's visual style, the truly bananas production story. I'm very excited to get into that. And what we liked about the film. So, how does that sound?
Wouldn't have
Amazing.
it any other way.
Love it. So, for starters, I got both of you to watch this. Thank you. I'm curious what your overall impressions were, I guess post-film impressions or throughout the film, and we can get into the further details as we go along, but like for the bare bones, Harry, let's start with you.
I loved this film. This film's so entertaining. How did you described it to me when you picked the film? Because typical Marta style, it's a movie that I've never fucking heard of. Sorry if I can't swear on this.
You can.
Okay, good. Never fucking heard of. But I always know whenever she gives me a movie to watch, recommends a film. That's what the kids call it nowadays. I always know I'm gonna love it because she knows my taste. I did love this. I think it's over the top, zany. It really reminds me. It reminded me of like a if Guy Ritchie made like a '60s Italian film.
Oh, I
Like
like that.
you know that like new age
Yes.
spy-esque Guy Ritchie films that I like those, but this one's just like so over the top. I love how there's like little to zero explaining of anything. Like it's just like, oh, he has this giant hideout that has something
A
for
layer.
everything. Yeah, a lair. There's a something for everything. It's like when the sorry to skip ahead, but the scene where they've got the giant tank of gold. It's like, no, we can melt that in the hideout. No worries, we got contraptions for everything there. And you crazy? That's nuts. I love this film. Just has so much sauce as well. It's just sick to look at, and there's just there's a lot of vibes in here that I really enjoy. Like it's just so over the top, and it like normal. You make this nowadays, people describe this as like not that I would describe this as like describe this sorry as a dumb action film. This is far from a dumb action film. This is like there's so much like behind this that I think is just so zany and fun and iconic. And if this be done in the '60s, I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's
Ash?
me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he said a lot of the same things I would say. I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's right up my alley. I'm not usually the biggest like action film person, but this didn't feel that way. It was very much a vibe, and the colors are fun. Like it's fun, romantic, it's sexy, it's chaotic and insane. Like a lot of the like car chases and deaths, and they're just absolutely unrealistic in the best way possible. I think you described it as like 60s Batman meets like a James Bond, which I think really fits. And as someone
Yeah,
who
that
has not
sounds
seen a
like
James Bond movie, I was thinking more Austin Powers, like inspiration, like immediately,
yeah, that's cool.
which is fantastic because I've seen that movie an ungodly amount of times. So it was fun to see something that clearly inspired those types of movies that we got later. But yeah, I think like the cars are so cool. The wardrobe is like just to die for. The colors, like you said, it's just very classic comic book. And I think that's the problem I have with superhero comic book films now. Like there's just no charm. And I think these types of films have so much charm to them. And that's what I like about this type of movie is when there's a charm to it, a zaniness, like a vibe. It's just, it makes it more enjoyable. And there's just something about the 60s that they could really do that well. You can't make it now. There's just that charm doesn't really exist anymore. So it kind of feels like a point in history, like that you're never going to get again, like getting to watch something like this. So thank you for recommending it. And even though I watched it like a month ago, I feel like I still remember so many iconic moments. It's just, it'll stick with me for a while.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's the best responses. I couldn't agree with you guys more. And I love that neither of you were like, thanks for nothing.
It's such a classic
Yeah.
Marta film. Did you
Yeah.
find that, Ash? Like halfway through it, where there's just random shit happening left, right, and center, and it's over like a six score, and it's just all about sexiness. And I'm just like, oh man, this is just
Yeah.
such a Marta's taste of film. I love this so
Absolutely.
much.
I've never not liked a movie that you've recommended me. So I think that just speaks to your taste. And like, obviously, you know us well enough to know what we're going to like, but I genuinely have not disliked a film that you've recommended. They all end up being so vibey.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and that's just my
there's such a
favorite part
trend.
about it.
I mean, I do try and like cater it to the person that's coming on. Like, I wouldn't force you guys to watch something I know you would hate. But yeah, I knew you guys would enjoy this. Ash, also homework for you, and homework for you, Harry, if you want to make it homework.
No.
But you mentioned Austin Powers, and recently I watched The 10th Victim by Elio Petri, and that's the movie that inspired the fembot. I love that I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? The fembot bullet bra.
I love, what's it called again?
The
Clip,
10th Victim.
Okay.
clip that chat.
And
Clip that.
so they do the bullet bra stuff like in the opening of the film, so I'm not even giving it away. But it's literally like just like from Austin Powers, except the outfits are different.
I
That's
love
a
it.
sick poster. The
Yeah,
Tenth Victim. That's
it's
a
a good
really
one.
cool poster.
So we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's start with Mario Bava himself. So yeah, for those of you who've spent a lot of time in the horror or Giallo specific circles, you know his name comes up very often. It's, highly regarded, to say the very, very least. His two films, The Girl Who Knew Too Much and Blood and Black Lace, are regarded as some of the earliest entries in the Giallo genre. Actually, shout out to my friend Dakota again of the Contra Zoom podcast. He had a fantastic little Giallo episode back in late October for Halloween. I believe it was episode 289. For those of you who want to go that way and check that out. But anyway, Mario Bava, he was the son of Eugenio Bava, who was a pioneer in special effects. He was also a cinematographer, renowned sculptor. I think he was also a painter. Talent runs in the family, clearly, since I think Mario himself has such an eye for composition and color, something you guys both brought up about this film too. And just a visual language that's so undeniably his own, no matter what genre it is. He was this master at optical illusions. And whenever he had a shoestring budget, which was a lot of the time, if I'm being honest, he got creative. So he did, cardboard sets, glass matte paintings, tricks with lighting and the camera to make things feel real, like they're actually happening. But they also come across as like so lush and artificial, it's hard to explain. And I actually point people towards Blood and Black Lace just due to the sheer like beauty meets brutality of it all. The colors are like popping off the screen. And I mean, you could pick so many other of his films if you want to go for that vibe, but these elements must have been things that both of you guys noticed in Diabolik, even if it's not a horror, right?
Absolutely.
For sure. So Bava got into the family business. Basically, he was initially inspired to become an artist, but he ended up following in his father's footsteps. So kind of got like a step up in the biz. He was first working as an apprentice in the optical effects department of the Istituto Nazionale Luce before becoming, thanks, Harry, before becoming a well-respected cinematographer. So he was a cinematographer from 1939 to 1960. And then in the 60s, he pivoted to filmmaking. And what's interesting about that fact is he was never comfortable in the limelight. He hated self-promotion. He thought it was vulgar, his words. So it's kind of funny that he ended up working on Diabolik because this was the biggest sort of major production with a big budget. It's also the one where he learned that he doesn't like working that way. Like he doesn't like being monitored by producers. It made the entire experience just kind of suck for him, to put it bluntly. But I'll get more on that in a sec. I also wanted to shout out this book that actually is the basis for this discussion. It's by Tim Lucas. It's called Mario Bava, All the Colors of the Dark. And it's fantastic if you want to learn more about Bava, this film, so many others. And the other main reason I bring it up is because there's a foreword in the book written by Martin Scorsese, and he shares something about Bava, his entire filmography as a whole, that is just worded so well, and I don't want to paraphrase it. So straight from Marty's mouth to you guys, quote, "Different directors have different strengths. Some, like DeMille or Hitchcock, are great storytellers. Bava was not a great storyteller, but he didn't have to be, and he wasn't trying to be. He was good, very good, at something else. He used light, shadow, color, sound, on and off screen, movement and texture to lead his viewers down uncharted paths into a kind of collective dream. Critics often compare movie watching to dreaming, but in Bava's case, that comparison means something. That's how I experienced Bava's best films," end quote. What do you guys think? Because I think that's like right on the money. I think Harry even said that too. There's not really a story.
I was thinking about what you said, Harry, how the story, like they don't explain a lot of things. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. The storytelling's not the best, but it does. I didn't care. I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah, I was the exact same. At first, I was just like, "Who is this guy?" And then they start to drive into this giant lair, and I was just like, "I don't care. This is
it doesn't matter."
Like, yeah, it may immediately like the things that happen, like immediately makes you forgive that. Not saying that there is something to forgive, but it's like immediately like puts in place that's like, "Hey, this is good enough. Like, don't worry about why. This just go along with it." And I love those type of movies anyway.
So that's kind of my goal for this episode as well. That was my thesis statement. That after we get through the production story, I hope you guys like it even more because once you realize like the issues that Baba had to work with to still make this happen, it's just unreal. But we'll get to that. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's based on a comic series. It was created in 1962. And what I love about the character of Diabolik is he's kind of like this seductive anti-hero. Like he's a thief, he's a, tactician, he's an anarchist. And then you have Ava, who's a sidekick. And even in the film, did you guys notice how there's almost like equal footing? Like she runs off and does her own stuff, and
Yeah, I like
like
that.
she needs to be helped at one point, but she's not like a damsel in distress the
Yeah.
entire time, right?
No, she like helps him a lot of the time.
And she
Yeah.
saves his ass.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love her. She's awesome. She's a badass. And like even just like the moments where towards the end, sorry to jump ahead, where she distracts the truck driver and then she's like driving past and it's like, oh, you see her a baller. I love her. She's great.
Yeah,
Her outfits were
absolutely.
great too.
Great outfits. I love the opening outfit, the like coral jumpsuit thing with like the low cut. It's perfect. But yeah, I love to see a movie like this where you expect the very attractive female counterpart to just be there for sex, for, congratulating them when they get home from their, big heist that they've been working up or whatever. But the fact that she's actually like a true sidekick and he needs her for more than just their romance. I think that's really cool. You don't see that, especially in I feel like a 60s
Yeah.
comic or movie. So I don't know. In most spy movies I've seen or this like comic book movies, the women don't usually have a role like this. So I think it was a perfect dynamic between the two of them.
Yay. So, what else is also admirable about Diabolik, and I guess Ava as well, is the code of ethics. And I wrote that, I think, in my letterbox review as well. And that's that he doesn't do things just because. Like, he doesn't rob a bank just because. He, wants to disrupt those power structures and humiliate those in charge. And I guess just rebel against bureaucracy, that sort of thing. I compared him to a 60s superhero Robin Hood. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like the one scene too, especially that I like that speaks to that is when they're all in that big room and that guy's up there speaking. I forget his character's name, giving like an update, and they're both there in disguise. And then he just like, goes up there to take a picture and basically does that. It's like a laughing gas.
Yeah, what's it? Oh, what's the gas that they call it?
Yeah, it's like
Something.
exhilarating
That's
gas.
the
is what
one.
it's
Yeah,
called.
Yes,
and they
yeah.
both take like little pills, like anti-exhilarating gas
Yeah.
capsule. It's so
It's just
fun.
that kind of stuff. I was like, those little details are just so fun. And yeah, the fact that the way he does it, you can really tell that it's like, oh, this is a big picture thing. Like he's trying to do something good, but the way he's going about it, it's very classic anti-hero, obviously. But yeah, I think Robin Hood is an interesting way to compare it. I didn't really think about that, but I do like that comparison.
Yeah. So there was that I thought of. There was also Fantomas, which is the character of the pulp crime books from early 20th century France. So Fantomas, I wish I had a picture to show you guys, but I'll inject it when the episode comes out. But that was a character, again, pulp crime books. He was created in 1911, and he was the sort of like proto supervillain, like this cunning and ruthless master of disguise and crime, and just one step ahead of the law. And this was like a massive cultural phenomenon when it first came out. It was eventually adapted into films. This started as early as the silent film era, and then in the 60s as well, it continued on. We had a trilogy of Fantomas films, and they were played a bit like James Bond spoofs. They were huge box office hits in France. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is in 1964, the first of the three Fantomas films from that trilogy, directed by Andre Hunebelb, came out, and it was a success. And so that sparked Tonino Cervi, who was the producer on like so many films in Italy. He worked with like Antonioni, Bertolucci, Fellini, the list goes on. Anyway, he decided, hey, this is a perfect time for a Diabolik film. People are vibing with Fantomas, so let's just replicate the same thing. People are also vibing with James Bond, so it's just a good time for it. And he had other actors planned for the roles of Diabolik and Eva. He got the British filmmaker Seth Holt on board, and for some reason I couldn't really understand why, but in 1965 production was just halted. And I heard from other sources that producer Dino De Laurentiis, obviously one of the most important producers in post-war era Italy, He was the distributor on Diabolik, and he saw this early footage that Holt did, and he was just horrified. So he booted him off set, and he said, "Nope, I'm taking over this production. Script is being rewritten. I'm hiring Mario Bava." Are you guys with me still?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, good. So the fit with Bava and Diabolik made sense. If you look at the film itself, as we said, the plot isn't anything like, wow, amazing, so well thought out. It's more in line with the Giallo movies he was making earlier in that same decade. So what Diabolik did end up having, and that's of course thanks to Bava, is that glorious visual language, which we all have been raving about for half an hour. So Bava came on board. He was also the one responsible for bringing on the two main screenwriters with him who would work on Diabolik, and that was Tudor Gates and Brian Degas. And at the time, these men were aware that Diabolik was popular in Italy, yeah, but not on an international level. And what did exist on an international level were, of course, the James Bond films. You know, Goldfinger came out in 1964, I believe, Thunderball in 1965. I'm listing the ones that came out around this time specifically.
It's impressive if you know that off the top of your head.
I was thinking the same thing.
I was practicing, guys. And so
1965, Thunderball. God damn it, she's good.
So what I find really interesting here is that they decided to base the script a little bit on Bond, as we were saying. That was literally the idea. And yeah, Harry, I think you mentioned it earlier. Ash, you're right. The way that I've been selling this to people is a mix of Bond and a mix of Batman, sure, but specifically the ABC TV show starring Adam West.
It's an Adam
There's
West
even like I noticed, like, did you guys remember the first? So there's the car chase at the beginning, and there's that gas that comes out that's like green and purple. That really reminded me of the Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
It's like a Joker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even
Yes.
his costume. The costume feels like I normally think if that was like a modern day, that would be the weirdest superhero type
Right?
of costume. But or comic book costume, but it works so well with this like era and this time period. I loved it. The black suit, even the white one that he wears, even the silver like kind of tin looking thing at the end. It's just perfect across the board.
It reminds me of like a superhero out of The Boys. Where it's like they do it. If you guys haven't seen The Boys, they're like it's all like about making fun of superheroes and stuff like that. So it's like really cheesy looking superhero suits. It looks like it's ripped right out of a scene of The Boys.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to check that out. You're not the first one to tell me to watch that, Harry.
Oh, The
Many
Boys is
people have.
great. Boys is great. Yeah, watch it.
Good. So the interesting thing with the whole ABC Batman is that came out after this script was being developed. So I looked into that because I was curious, was this inspired by that or vice versa? So I think it's just a coincidence, like a strange coincidence. But yeah, it's also worthwhile noting that, did I touch on this earlier? Yes, I did. This was Bava's biggest budget to date. Granted, he did not spend the entire amount, so the budget was $3 million.
That's a lot back then, right?
Sorry?
Heaps. That's a lot back then, right?
Yeah, that's a lot. But think about it. I mean, Dino De Laurentiis was attached to it. Like, it just makes sense. So, $3 million budget. The catch, however, was that if Bava wanted to do like any big changes, that depended on De Laurentiis' approval. And this included the casting too. So initially, De Laurentiis wanted, get this, Alain Delon in the role of Diabolik. And the reason he was unavailable was twofold. For one, he ran off to star in Le Samurai by Melville in 1967. Have you guys seen that?
No.
It's on the Criterion Channel. It is gorgeous. Like, Le Samurai is chef's kiss. It's arguably the better film than this if we're going by like actual quality of a movie. So definitely check that out. But the other reason is, and this is according to Bava's son, Lamberto Bava, also a filmmaker, Delon was apparently too expensive at the time.
Really?
That said, like, I think that would have been such an interesting role for him. Delon, if you guys know what he looked like in the 60s, just gorgeous human.
Yeah, I'm looking at photos of him now. This guy's...
I don't know how to spell
I
the
got
name,
him.
so
I'll bring up a photo. This guy's
Harry can do it.
stunning.
I know,
Right.
he has these piercing blue eyes. He was also in Plain Soleil. Yeah, like, it's...
Is this the guy from that Purple Noon movie?
Purple Noon, Plain Soleil, yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, but I remember you talking about how handsome he is. So, okay, I'm sold.
I honestly,
He's
every
a
single
smoke
time I
show.
speak about him publicly, I start going off about how handsome he is.
Look at those eyes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and knowing who the female was supposed, well, obviously you're going to get into
Yeah,
that, but
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
would have
yeah.
been, I would have not been able to pay attention
I
because,
know. I think Alain Delon would have been good for this role. I mean, I do like John Philip Law, but I think Delon would have been a good pick as well, in my opinion. But so this is where we cue Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda is also in the story, imagine. And also her
Been
husband at the
awesome.
time and director, Roger Vadim. Literally everyone's popping up in the story. But Fonda had recently worked with John Philip Law on Hurry Sundown. And she told her husbands to also cast Law as Pygar in Barbarella, the iconic Barbarella,
Yeah.
which he was in. And this was another De Laurentiis picture. And he approved of Law as Pygar. So while Law was working on Barbarella, he was also at the same time practicing with his eyebrows raised super high to look like Diabolik. So when the time came for him to finally audition for Bava, he did like the whole like eyebrow thing, and Bava was just like over the moon. He loved the portrayal. He was like, "This is my Diabolik. We're going with John Philip Law." And so far, no major hiccups. Everything is going well since Bava came on board. However, Ash, now I'm turning to you. I know you're a fan of Catherine Deneuve, correct? Yes.
yes.
How would you have liked her in the role of Ava Kent?
I mean, she's obviously like the most beautiful woman on the planet, but she has such a different look. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like in the roles I've seen her in, at least, like she has a sense of this like doe-eyed kind of innocence. And I don't know that that's what the character of Eva really wanted to portray. She would have looked beautiful, but I don't know how I would have felt. I don't know if it would have worked.
That is exactly the answer that
Okay.
I was
Yay,
looking
I
for, that I
passed.
thought you would go with. Because you knew I was going to ask you this. Yes. So De Laurentiis initially wanted Catherine Deneuve in the role of Eva. Same as you, I absolutely love her. I think she's stunning, but that would have been the strangest pairing to me. And she wasn't Bava's pick either. But he did end up shooting some scenes with her, and even John Philip Law said that she was fine in the role, but, quote, he couldn't get over how sweet she was, which is what you're saying,
She
Ash.
looks like
And
she'd just be so sweet. And she's also like more pale, like fair skinned, which I just feel like is just a whole different look
yeah,
to
you
like they're both
needed
so
that sort of
tan in this
sultry and
movie.
seductive edge, I
Yeah.
think. And hold on, I actually have photos of her I can show you guys. Or you know what, we'll get to that in a bit. But so in interviews, Deneuve hasn't gone on record to talk about her time in the film. But what I discovered, again through that book, through the grapevine, is that she and Bava clashed a lot to the point where he was actually kind of mean to her on set, allegedly, all allegedly. But maybe that's also because of the pressure that De Laurentiis was putting on him. I don't know. It wasn't a nice vibe, to say the least. And that really breaks my heart because Deneuve seems so soft spoken. And I don't know, I've
Mm.
just always really liked her. Ash, I'm sure you feel the same. It's just
Yeah.
not the nicest news. But here's a funny anecdote. So, the icing on the cake and what got her booted off the set, or what was like, I don't know,
Booted.
the last sort of straw, she refused to partake in that money scene, the money sex scene.
Oh, that's iconic.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Bava complained. I couldn't help but laugh, like honestly. So Bava complained that she didn't even want to show her calves. And the reason why this is so ironic is because immediately after this film, she went and did Buñuel's Belle de Jour, where she's like quite naked. Harry immediately goes to like,
What's this? How do you
Sounded to me
spell
like
this
she
film?
didn't like him.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just the craziest pivot ever. And what Law said is he thinks that she wasn't ready for the role of Diabolik. And if she had done Belle de Jour first, she may have been more relaxed on set. But I mean, I'm sure it also doesn't help, as you said, Ash, that Bava wasn't kind, allegedly.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me show you guys the images of her in Diabolik because it's just weird to me. I have a couple. So I have one.
Oh yeah, that doesn't work.
That
No,
doesn't work
right?
at all.
Oops, wrong way. Like, look at her
She
smiling.
she
That
looks
looks
too
like it's a
innocent.
scene from
It
Umbrellas.
looks like
Yeah.
they're siblings. You know what I mean? Like it looks
Yeah.
like more of like a little sister role.
It's strange. So it just doesn't work. So after a few weeks of shooting, Marissa Mel came on, of course, and I'm so glad she did. I really enjoyed her in this. I know you guys did too.
Yeah.
Apparently, when she came on set and did her first scene with Law, They just immediately hit it off, and Baba was delighted. He came up to them and he's like, I have my Diabolik, I have my Eva. I'm a dog of a director, but I'm good behind the camera.
Dog of a
Which I love
director.
that. And yeah, they got along. Law and Mel lived together while shooting. They even adopted a black cat that they named Diabolik, which is
I
so
love that.
cute. I
That's
want to know
adorable.
who kept the cat.
I was just gonna say, I wonder where that cat ended up.
Yeah. But I should also mention that Diabolik's main rival in the film is Inspector Ginkgo, played by Michel Piccoli, the beloved French actor who, I mean, I've said this in the past. Honestly, I cannot count how many European productions I've seen from the 60s where I like Leo DiCaprio from the couch and I'm like, oh my God, it's Michel Piccoli. I mean, even in these last few minutes, the films we were talking about, there's connections to him. He was obviously in The Young Girls of Rochefort, as you know, Ash with Deneuve. He was also in Belle de Jour. Like, he's just everywhere. What did you guys think of him in this movie?
I
I'll go
enjoyed
first.
him.
Oh, you go.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I
no.
heard that as soon as I started
Yeah, I
talking.
know. I was like, who's gonna go first? Yeah, you go, Ash. You go. You go.
No, I enjoyed him. I thought he was like a nice balance. Obviously, much more like level-headed character than the rest of them. But yeah, he was fun to watch. I think some of the other characters alongside him were much more charactery. He felt a little more grounded compared to everybody else. It
Definitely.
was fun.
Yeah,
Harry?
I like how personal this all is for Ginkgo. Like anytime, like anything that like Diabolik is just like he's. If we break it down, he's a thief, right? Like he's
Yeah.
not like some like crazy dude, but it's just like his entire legacy of his job is about this one criminal. I really like this. I find that funny. Everything that he does is like all style, no substance, and I mean that in the most positive way sense possible with this film. That everything he does is just like so fun and so funny. Like the way that he gets a criminal Valmont, that's his name, Valmont, to kind of get on his side, and they both hunt Diabolik. I think that's a great idea. Why doesn't more like modern day detectives do that? I think just get the mob and get them to do it. I think it's
That guy's
hilarious.
quite funny as well. I feel like his character feels like something straight out of a comic book. It almost gave me like vibes of oh, what's the big bad that's a part of like the Daredevil group, Harry?
Kingpin.
Harry.
Kingpin. It kind of like give me like a similar vibe of that. Like not so much what he was doing, but more just his attitude and his voice and demeanor. It was fun.
Yeah, I got
So-
a. Oh,
Oh, sorry, go, Harry.
I've got like one key moment of Ginkgo that I like
Please.
that I wrote down. I was like, towards the end, when he finally thinks he has Diabolik cornered during the gold heist, you can feel the years of frustration in his voice. And yet, even in victory, there is no joy. That's the tragic edge of Ginkgo. He's defined by his pursuit, but he never really wins, even when he does. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I was
Mic
going to bring
drop.
up that moment as well. You said it so much better than I
Yeah.
would.
Guys,
I agree. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. No, but to piggyback off of that, you guys know how much I love a good piggyback.
we do know that. We were saying that before. It was like crazy. Marta McFly, like she loves random films that no one's ever heard of and piggybacking. It's nuts.
I
It's-
love
it's two
piggybacking.
things.
There's so many. It's like a Russian gymnast. And
Must be a
Joey's just
Canadian
piggybacking. And now I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
Sorry,
Oh yeah,
sorry.
to piggyback off what Harry was saying. My other favorite moment is when Ginkgo thinks he caught Diabolik. This is kind of around the halfway mark of the film, and he's like driving in his car. Oh, this is when they think that Diabolik is dead. And he's driving in the car with like an associate or someone, and his associate is like, "Oh, like shouldn't you be happier that you caught Diabolik?" And he's like, "No, I'm not. Like he's such a big part of my life." So I really like that, and I feel like that also becomes a bit of a crime film trope in more modern day cinema when the bad guy is caught and it's still early on in the film, or bad guy, you know what I mean, and the person that's a part of the law is like, "Oh, well, I'm not happy. I can't rest even though I caught him."
It's like the detective's entire purpose, you know, and their entire like motivation. So it's like, what do you do without that?
Well, yeah, you described it perfectly before of how it's like an old school Batman. It's literally the dynamic between Batman and the Joker, where it's like the Joker even explain. I think it's in the Dark Knight where he explains it that I can't live without you, and you can't live without me. And it's like
Yes.
we're meant for each other. I love that sort of.
Deep.
That's what it kind of is. It's like the mouse has to be chased and the cat has to chase. Like, yeah.
That's beautiful, Harry.
Thank you.
Good, right?
It's very early in the morning for me, so like I'm going all
So,
right.
of course, the other big player as well was Adolfo Celli in the role of Ralph Valmont.
Oh, I love him.
And he was, as Harry was saying, the gangster essentially responsible for making a deal with Inspector Ginkgo to catch Diabolik. But I mention him because he was notably in Thunderball, as we
Oh, that's
said.
who he is. Yes. Yes, I
Exactly. I
knew
mean, he's been
it.
in other films too, but you probably recognize him the most from Thunderball.
Yeah.
So just some major players. Harry, I feel like you enjoyed Valmont and his
Oh, yeah.
plane quite a bit. That seems very Harry core.
Dude, his plane's fucking wild. He's just got a trap door in the middle of the fly.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of flying. I'm not scared of it, but I just never feel comfortable. And I flew yesterday, and I was thinking like if I had a trap door, I wouldn't be pressing it. But the one scene, my favorite part, I messaged you guys after this, is as soon as it happened, where he fires a fucking gun in the plane, and it go and makes a hole, and it starts to whistle, like because it's a compressed fucking tube in the middle of the air. And one of the henchmen just looks at it, gets his gum out, and just plugs the hole. I'm like, the absolute aura is wild right now. It's
If only if it was
nuts.
that easy.
I know.
Yeah,
That's what I think is funny about these movies. They're so ambitious.
so
Like
ambitious.
even the scene, one of my favorite scenes is when they're driving and he pulls out I kept saying Diabolik, which is like obviously the incorrect way to say it, but Diabolik and Eva are driving and he puts out that like mirror wall. He just
Oh, it's
has
so good.
that, and then puts like what? Like I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like that in a movie before, and I thought it was so perfect and just the most outrageous things that they do just make it so charming and gives
Yeah.
it that like vibe that you want. So I love it.
Some of it reminded me of like Wile E. Coyote or Bugs Bunny, like the
Very
Looney
cartoony.
Tunes.
Yes.
Like what you're referring to, like when they put the metal
Yeah,
thing on the highway, like that's completely Roadrunner-esque, I would say.
absolutely. Yeah, very much a cartoon, very much that era. And
Hmm.
yeah, it wouldn't work in a movie now. And I just yeah, they execute it very well. So again, story, maybe not great, but the vibes and the fun that you're having make up for it.
We love the vibe.
Even the ending with the
Yeah.
molten gold, where he's just
So
like,
great.
this suit, nothing will be able to penetrate me, and he's got like a little mask that doesn't even cover up the whole of his face, and he's still fine. He's still totally sweet.
I
Love
love
it.
it. I love it so much.
I like this movie. This movie's fun.
And I mean, we can chat about the cast forever, but so many people are in this. But I will mention quickly as well some key players who worked behind the camera too. So we had cinematographer Antonio Rinaldi, then the art direction. This one is major. That was led by Flavio Mogherini and Piero Giraldi. Carlo Rambaldi specifically did the mask for Diabolik. He's also notable, and why I mention him is for his work later on E.T.
Oh,
So he went on to do like major
wow.
stuff. And then, of course, you had Ennio Morricone doing the score. I don't know about you guys, but when I saw Morricone's name flash across the screen at the start, I was like, yes.
I'll be honest, I don't know who that is, but I loved the score.
Yeah.
All of it
Fair,
was perfect.
It's good, the
fair,
bad,
fair,
the
fair.
ugly, right? And
Yeah.
and
Morricone did like e- everything.
yeah, he
I
was
feel
like a
like in the
king of the
60s, I've been on
westerns.
this huge, like I said, like specifically Italian movie kick lately. And I kid you not, almost every movie I've thrown on, I see like score, Ennio Morricone.
Yeah, he also did Hateful Eight, Ash.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, the name does not like ring a bell immediately, but
yeah.
like you said, if they've done everything, I'm sure
If
I've
you,
seen
now
things.
that you know, when you start paying attention to
He's got a
movies as you
style.
watch,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like everywhere.
Well, I would say westerns are my least watched genre, so I need to step up my game there.
maybe we should do a western month, and
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
we'll talk about that. Means nope. No, it's fine.
So all these people off to the races, we're making a movie. But the races were kind of like bullfights because De Laurentiis and Bava were butting heads. See what I did there?
I
Nice.
like that.
Well, thank you guys.
Do
Thank
like
you.
that a lot.
So, for starters, after the whole Catherine Deneuve debacle, it was pretty clear that although De Laurentiis and Bava got along relatively well, they wanted different things. And remember how I said that Diabolik comics weren't known on an international level? So, because of that, De Laurentiis wanted to make what he called a international movie. What that means, who knows? I would gather that it means something more commercially friendly, right?
Yeah.
Likely. So Baba wanted something darker and that's more truer to his style. And he thought that his style, going that darker route, would be more genuine to the comics themselves. So they would, verbally spar over this. Law later said that he sees the film as being like a hybrid of both. Like you have the commercial factor, but then you also have the weirder, darker factor. I don't know. Was it a blend? I would agree with this statement. What do you guys think?
Hmm. Go ahead, Terry.
Like,
Commercial
yeah,
or not?
like I think it is. I think it is like it's a blend for sure, but there's definitely like moments that you like this very much is very commercial, like, but it has its own twist on it. That's why I kind of like reasoned it like Guy Ritchie, where at the
Mm.
beginning where it's like it's a kind of like a spy film, like a criminal spy film. It's not a spy film, but you know what I mean, like that sort of like James Bond esque, but it has that style on it that is quintessentially not commercial at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of stands on its own. Like it doesn't directly feel like, I don't know, it's hard to compare because it's like we're in 2025. So when I think of like commercial movie now, I don't think of anything like this. This still
Hmm.
feels so much more authentic and so much more original. You know what I mean? Than anything we get now. So it's hard. I don't have my 60s bag is not deep for films, I'll be honest. So I don't know what would be considered commercial at that time. I'm thinking like, I don't know, like Singing in the Rain or like these big,
Hmm.
productions. But yeah, I mean, obviously being a type of film that has like big car chases or big, scenes on a boat or in this layer, like it feels big in scale in that sense and can
Hmm.
feel kind of commercial. But I don't know, it does feel like it really is still like its own kind of authentic thing.
Some
And
beast.
obviously was the inspiration for so many things that came later. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it is a nice balance, I guess, if you kind of look at it that way. But I don't
Hmm.
immediately think commercial when I think of it, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you said that it felt big with all of the, planes. Are there trains? No, boats, cars.
Everything but trains, basically.
Yes. I'm happy that you say that because that was actually the next sort of portion that we're going to chat about. So sure. So the problem was De Laurentiis and Bava were kind of butting heads, but they got along relatively well. The other problem, and that's the one that I mentioned earlier, is that the budget was astronomical, yet Bava never had more difficulty on a film. So what was the issue? De Laurentiis was working on God knows how many other films at the time, and he was never available. But remember what I said, he wanted to approve literally every and any big change that would cost money. So on that $3 million budget, Bava claimed he spent no more than 400,000. And
No more.
I know, crazy.
Hmm.
And if De Laurentiis wanted any proposed changes, that didn't happen because he was never there. So Bava himself said, quote, I had very few means available to me. Imagine how I had to get by, inventing everything with trickery because the production company gave me nothing to work with. Nothing. End quote.
Oh. That has me so curious about the layer because that had some pretty tricky like passageways and traps and
Mhm.
it looked huge when you're watching it. So I'm very curious how they did a lot of that on.
Right?
So what Bava ended up utilizing were these miniatures and optical illusions. So, like I said, this is the part I'm so excited to chat about. Were there any things you guys noticed that looked super fake to you?
I love it. It did look fake, but when they fucking blew up the Ministry of Finance, and it was just like little tax signs that got blown up, and they just kept getting blown up. It's like finance, taxes, like just like,
Yeah, that's definitely a good one.
that was
It's a
the one.
dream
That's
scenario.
also probably the best bit of the entire film, where he blows it up and then looks to Eva and goes, "Happy birthday, Eva." That's the birthday present.
Iconic.
The
Yeah, I
movie.
also laugh
Joking.
at the car going off the cliff after the metal door thing I was talking about.
There's nowhere
It's like,
near the cliff,
"Phew,"
and
and
they
then it's just like a big explosion. It looks like a little tiny, like crumbled up thing. It doesn't look like a full-size car. I feel like that's one that I can think of.
Mhm.
But I don't know, the layer all to me looked like full scale
Yeah, they
size, like
did. It looks
things.
good.
So
Here
I'm
we
Oh,
so
go.
I'm
curious
so
about your
happy
secret
you guys
info
are
here.
saying this. But I love the ones that you brought up, especially. Honestly, both of those are iconic. And they had me laughing as well throughout. But a few things I want to highlight. The entrance to Diabolik's cave. So this floored me, and I rewatched the film last night. Now I could like kind of tell, but on first watch, I like didn't think anything of it. So The entrance to the cave, it looks like there's, how am I going to explain this? Like there's that flap,
Yeah.
right? And then the car going
Mhm.
into it. Did that look real to you guys?
Now that you say it, no.
Even now that I say it, now that
now
I
you
say
say it, like at the time, I thought it was entirely real.
at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looked legit, if I'm being honest. Like, I didn't notice anything off.
So this is what I think is so cool and what I love about Bava so much. The entrance was filmed on this roadside that had a decline. And so in the foreground of the shot, that was placed on a miniature. And so there was this like roll operated flap that opened the lid to the cave. And so when the car was driven, it was driven, how am I doing this in the camera? Behind it on a forced perspective. So if you actually pay attention to it, the car is not going inside.
Okay.
See, now you say that, I can picture it. But
Mm-hmm.
like while I was watching it, I was like, oh, they literally just made a cave.
With the flap.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it makes sense.
So there's that. That's one. Another one, there was the scene where Diabolik, he parachutes down to the ground and runs to rescue Ava from this cabin. So this was again from that book that I read, and it's John Philip Law said this. Bava was fussy about finding a cabin that he liked, and so I'll just quote him directly. They went out and looked for some cabins, but he didn't like this and he didn't like that. Finally, he said, let's break for lunch. Give me a magazine. And so Baba cuts out a little photo of a cabin, maybe like an inch and a half high, out of a Camel cigarette ad. And he glues it on like a sheet of glass and, quote, he stuck it behind there and then he put a platform up on the hill behind it. He said, look, John, just run up there. Walk up those 2 steps, step forward on the platform, and then don't move because you'll be masked by this little thing on the glass. Sure enough, I went up, and on the film, it looked like I was banging on the door and stepped inside, and that was it. The cabin wasn't even there. End quote.
Wow.
I'd have to rewatch it to like now have a different perspective.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
literally
insane.
just from like a Camel cigarette ad
That's
on a bit
really
of glass.
But like, you only have $3 million, I guess. So back then, that's what, $150 million, I think, inflation.
but he didn't get to spend it all. That's what she was saying. Like 400,000 out of 3 million.
That's true.
That's
Tariffs.
not a lot.
Yeah. It's true. That's true.
Yeah, I find it so impressive with older films because like this is pre-computers. Like they had to do everything practically, and that looks different than maybe like the traditional sense of like practical effects that we're used to, like E.T., for example. But even just things like that, like building the sets or like using forward, back, images in the front of the camera versus the back to like create these illusions. I think that's really impressive. And they don't have to do that as much anymore. So that's why I think this like type of filmmaking is so much more impressive, even though it can be cheesy because you can tell like car riding scenes are always so funny to me in 60s movies because they just look so fake, but there's just like a charm to it that just doesn't exist anymore, and that's what I love about these type of films.
Yeah,
And
it's
when they're
campy, but
done
in the
well
best way.
too, you
Yeah.
can't notice. Sorry,
Yeah.
Harry?
I was saying, I was agreeing. It was like, it's campy, but it's in the best way. Like,
Yeah.
for sure. I also think like, even though like these are kind of like ridiculous points of filmmaking, they would look a lot better than some of the modern day CGI.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it still holds up.
There's something lovable about it too, like the fact it's I don't know, it's just like this scrappy mentality that I really like to filmmaking, like this producer isn't gonna help me, screw it, I'm just gonna go cut out a photo of a cabin from a cigarette ad and figure it out and make it work myself.
Yeah, in a way, it feels like something that maybe some of our like, great indie filmmakers would do. Like, I don't know, my mind went to like Sean Baker or somebody that just like, I don't know, like makes like lower budget movies. It's not the same type of genre, obviously, but just like kind of getting creative and doing what you have to do to get the shot to look the way you want it to look without money being the sole driving force.
Totally.
Yeah, it reminded me of like old age Sam Raimi. Like where he would use
Yeah.
anything
Like the
to...
Evil Dead movies or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. It's like would use whatever he has.
To make it happen, yeah.
And Sean Baker's great. How good's Nora?
So
podcast.
I would say for me the fakest thing was the the plane with the trapdoor.
So good. It's so good.
So what I find interesting about that, before we even get to the trapdoor itself, there was actually no plane. Like there were The shots of a plane from outside, but inside that was all just like sets being built. There was no plane.
They didn't
And
put a
the shots of the
trapdoor in a real
characters.
plane.
Sorry?
They didn't put a trapdoor in a real plane.
Crazy.
Imagine. Well, no, I mean like if it was like an out of use plane that they could then like
Yeah.
mess around with. But so the shots of the characters falling through the trapdoor, that was shot on another miniature floor. And so when that flap opened up, there was like a rotating matte painting under it, and it would rotate constantly to look like clouds, the sky.
Yeah.
And when the characters were dropped down to their deaths, that was actually G.I. Joe dolls
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's great.
dressed as characters.
I love that.
That's awesome.
And again, it was something that I didn't notice when I watched for the first time. And then I watched it again with that in mind. And it's actually pretty funny because you can see these little dolls just, they look like dolls when you know.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it now after all these
Yeah,
behind the scenes. Man, how good are movies?
we love movies. Movies are the best.
With the plane where he jumps out with Valmont, and he like tackles him through, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, it's to explode," and then it explodes as if he fucking forgot that he put this device on. This movie slaps. This movie's so good. I was watching
Absolutely.
it last night, just like with having a ball.
You can't help but laugh the entire time, I know.
And it's on YouTube. It's so accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
in
excuses.
1080p.
Yeah.
1080p.
1080.
Where was I going with this? Yeah, the reason why I wanted to highlight all this is, I mean, as you were saying, Ash, with Sean Baker, which I think, like, yeah, different genres, but it's such a great example. You don't need to have this big budget to get inventive. And if you just, take the time, use whatever resources you have, use a little bit of creativity, you can really make something beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
It's nice stuff. And I mean, I think it's also worthwhile noting, and I hinted at it earlier, that it was Bava. He's the one that's cited as making the lead characters in Diabolik, who are, I guess, anti-heroes, ones to root for. And he made them more sympathetic. And I mean, we also have Law and Mel to thank for their chemistry, which is off the charts. But even with all that crime that they commit, their love feels so pure. And I think it's the scenes with them where they're so in love. There's like the underwater pool, him putting like the diamonds on her, like stuff like that. That's what absorbed me the most. What about you guys?
Definitely. I think even the first scene where we get them like in the first like what 10, 15 minutes of the movie.
Showers.
The shower. Don't even get me started on the showers.
Yeah,
I'm getting
I've got
all those
notes
in
on the
my house. Okay.
I've got notes in the showers
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
The showers are great. I want them. But yeah, just like the passion that exists. They're not necessarily talking, but they're kissing. There's passion, and then obviously going to that rotating bed and the money and they're all the way underneath the money. It's like you don't see anything until you see like an arm pop out or a
It's
thigh
so
pop out.
style.
It's just got so much, like, I guess aura is the word we use now. I don't use that word often, but yeah, like it's got a different type of passion, and their chemistry makes it work better. Like there's no nudity in this movie, yet it's somehow like sexier than a lot of other movies where you get like full nudity or something. So it just kind of speaks to what they're able to bring through like just their overall aesthetic and wardrobe and just chemistry together, which I thought was great. I mean, honestly, I was more invested in them than the whole, like whenever it was just like the inspector, other people on screen, it was
Oh,
fun,
yeah.
but I was kind of like, okay, back to them, please. That's like all I care about now.
Yeah, they give off the vibe that like they'd kill and die for each other, like
Yes.
wholeheartedly. Back in the showers, Ash. That is the
Yes.
most impractical showers I've ever come across.
cares?
Like, have you seen how he showered? It was like a bucket above his head, and it was like overflowing. There was like no pressure.
Was there
I
a
have a
bucket?
rainfall
It
shower
looked like
head.
it. I've got a
I
rainfall
wasn't
as well.
looking
but
up
it
top.
was-
I
it
was looking at the circle that was like blurring them.
Oh yeah, that was weird. At first, I thought it was like I saw that I was like Italian cinema. And I was like, but is that actually like on the shower, or is that just like done?
I think it's like a
post?
design, like in the glass.
I
You
thought it was
can
a
have
design.
like designs that make it like distorted where you can't see through it.
Yeah, interesting. But those were sick. But yeah, they come across as like they're just doing this for the fun of it, right? Like, this is how they kind of like find living, like get life out of life is
For the
by
love of the game.
Foreplay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
foreplay.
is absolutely. But they, at the end of the day, it feels like they would give away everything just for each other.
Well, look at that final scene. Like, not to jump to the end, but that kind of you see her for the first time. You know, she's usually not wearing a lot of clothes. That's the first time she's covered up. She's covered in fur and like
Oh yeah.
she's a totally different demeanor. And then when she sees him move, her spark is back instantly. She's back to being herself. So it's kind of like that classic, like she can't go on without him. What is her life now? And then it's like, oh wait, okay, he's okay. We're gonna get past this. He's gonna
Swoon.
find a way out. But yeah, I love that moment you get of her kind of experiencing what it could be without him for the first time.
How would you get out of being encased in molten gold, Ash?
I would just punch my way through because I'm that strong.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that for you, so that's good that you already...
Flex my muscles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hulk
Just
it
like
out.
karate chop it and I break out.
Yeah.
I love it. So, as we wrap, Diabolik was released in January 1968. It earned the equivalent of 178,000 at the Italian box office. But get this. So remember how I said this was made around the same time as Barbarella with Law as well? So that came out the following October and that earned nearly 3 times as much. Have you guys seen Barbarella?
I actually
No.
haven't.
I
Neither
know
of
it. Yeah, I know it, but I've just never seen it.
Yeah,
Same.
you know of it, of
Yeah.
course. I
That
would check it
poster's
out.
iconic.
It's good, it's fun, it's campy, it's like this. I prefer Diabolik, and I mean, yeah, I would say Diabolik is the better film of the two, but it just didn't have Jane Fonda opening the film with like an anti-gravity striptease, which
And now I'm
I-
sold.
there you go.
It's-
There you go.
It's,
When it comes to ticket sales, that's what sells.
yeah, for sure.
And what's interesting, and that's probably why the ending ended on the note that it did with Diabolik, is De Laurentiis wanted Bava to make a sequel, which is interesting because, again, he's a producer and this film didn't, I mean, it didn't do that well comparatively to Barbarella, but he wanted Bava back on board. And Bava told him, I love this, quote, I told him I was sick in bed permanently, but I'm
That's awesome. I'm going to tell my
Didn't wanna
boss
work
that
with
on
him, I
Monday.
guess.
That's awesome.
on your boss on
Yeah.
Good
Just let you
call.
know, permanently, I'm not coming in. Yeah.
love.
I like that.
So, as we close off, what did I miss? Is there anything you guys want to add? Any more shower thoughts or plane thoughts or money pile pool thoughts? Could be anything.
Speaking of money pile pool, my favorite quote in the entire film was, "How can we spend all this money?" And it's answered with, "Who cares?" Love it. That's the entire film as one. That is a, as Ash says, because she loves using the word aura moment. That is such an aura moment. I love, yeah, just those two together. It's like, it doesn't matter how much they steal. It's just that they get away with it.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
love
I
this
mean,
movie.
I did not write down any quotes of like lines from characters, and I wish
That's
I
literally
did.
the
I'm
only
sure
one I did, by the way. So don't worry, Ash. That's
there's so
literally
many
the other
great
one.
ones, like so many. But yeah, I really love that ending. I just really, like I said, enjoy when the two of them are together. I think, yeah, like them being in disguise, that whole scene is so funny to me. Yeah, they just sort of have this perfect passion, and like Harry said, it's like they want all this money, like who cares? Like they just they have a love of the game and they love each other, and so you want to root for them even though they're doing, they are committing crimes in a sense, but they have their good reasons for doing it. And I always love a good anti-hero story. I feel like it's interesting. It's like a moral thing of like, should I root for them? Should I not? And I feel like here it's just done in such a fun, charming way. So I definitely would be revisiting this movie. I love all the production stories that you've told us. So I definitely want to look for some of that. And yeah, the final shot of him winking, all the zoom in shots.
It opens
why I
with one, too.
love. Yeah, you're right. It does. And even that like optical illusion looking like credit sequence in the beginning.
Yeah.
Really unique, really cool. These are the kind of movies that I like to return to because I just don't think we'll ever get anything like it again. And there's something special about that. Feels like just like a chunk in history that you just like have to just accept like that doesn't exist anymore. We've passed that, but that's why we have films. So we can revisit them.
Oh,
So yeah,
I forgot to mention, you just reminded me when you said optical illusion. It's not at the film start. I think it's also halfway. The police sketch that's done that looks
Oh,
like
that's
a
nuts.
Warhol cartoon.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, me too.
There's some
Did you-
gas station. The guy's like, "Hang on a second." That's nuts.
So
That's
good.
it. This whole movie is diabolic. Like
Literally.
it's
Yes.
so bizarre.
So I can't believe I didn't shut that out until now, but I'm happy you guys both remembered. It was just so cool and so like unrelated to everything else in the film. But yeah, similar to what you were saying, Ash, I also love a good like rebel against the man story, and not even just that, but I mean I said it earlier, just the stories of underdogs even behind the camera, the ability that Baba had to get creative under restraint and still manage, to me at least, make some of these frames feel like they are comic book panels brought to life. Like, did you guys have that sort of essence at times?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this felt like an old school comic, like that you'd find just in a newspaper, where like this felt like 10 little episodes of a 60s crime show, like zany crime show put into one, and it really felt like each element was like a different part of the comic, where at the end he'd always get away. Like it's always something like that, which I thought was awesome. Especially where did we talk about the catapult? Where he catapulted his costume, and I was like, that's him.
So great.
They start shooting, one guy's like, I got him, I swear I got
Talking
him.
about on the roof whenever he's like
Yes.
desperate to get out. Yeah.
That's
With
so
the suction,
funny.
did he have suctions
Yes.
on while he was climbing too?
Yes.
Yeah,
Like there's that's what I mean. So many parts of this really do feel like a Looney Tunes cartoon as well. And I can't even believe that we missed talking about the catapult and the suction. I mean, there's just
I'm
so
glad you
much.
brought
And
that up, Harry, because yeah, I actually that
completely
scene
forgot about
is
it.
so hilarious to me.
at the
the
same
one
time,
guy
I'm kind of
shoots
happy we
once.
didn't bring it all
I
up.
got it. So good, yeah. But also just quickly to add on, Ash said, which is kind of it's like against the man. Absolutely, I love that. It's only now I realize the villain of the story is just a cop doing his job. And I think that's hilarious at the same time. It's like, we want him to get away for sure, but at the same time, he's like stealing millions from the country. Like,
This is what I'm talking about. The moral question of the anti-hero. Do you know? Is
The only
is he
bad
good
guy
or
would
is
be
he bad?
Valmont.
yeah. Yeah, but
I
he's an
think.
actual mobster. Yeah. That's what Diabolik said, that like, he goes, like, I want to feel like a criminal, not a government employee. But at the same time, he's just attacking this police officer who's just trying to solve crimes. That's all he's trying to do. I think it's funny.
So soft spoken too.
Yeah.
Kinko,
Big
of
time.
course.
Loved it.
But anyway, that's, I guess, all we have time for today. Just over an hour long. Thank you both for coming on. I hope you enjoyed this chat as much as I did. Now's your chance, both of you. Anything you want to shout out?
Ash's podcast that she's always on, Love, Death, and Movies, for sure. They'll be linked in below. That's definitely it for me.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to check out the pod, that's cool. But no, just yeah, thanks for obviously having us. Obviously, the three of us talk movies all the time, and I am, but it's fun to be able to actually like go through a specific film and break it down with all your good notes and research that you have. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I definitely want to rewatch this movie maybe in like 6 months and kind of try to see what I can notice that we've talked about. But yeah, this is fun. We should do this more often.
We should do this more often. Yeah.
See you next week.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said see you next week because Ash said we should do it more often.
See you next week. I mean, you could. But yeah, everyone, please give Harry and Ash a follow. Love, Death, and Movies podcast. They are absolute gems in the industry. And if you haven't seen Diabolik and you want to check it out, as we mentioned earlier, it is chilling on YouTube. 1080p. Looks really good. I would do that.
If you're at this point of the podcast and you still haven't watched it, that's impressive. That's impressive.
We gave away everything.
Yeah, wow.
But also, who cares? It's
Yeah,
not
no,
a film
it's-
where it matters, right? Like,
Absolutely. No,
I love that.
genuinely
Aura, it's
think
about
that
the
it's
vibes.
impressive that you've gotten to this and you aren't sold on it yet, that you haven't pressed pause and watched it. I was like, that's impressive.
As for physical copies, I think there are some out there. I really want to get one because you don't know when it's going to leave YouTube. And I just love this film so much. So yeah, I got to get you guys back on another episode. Appreciate you both coming on, watching this. This was fun. And I will talk to you soon. Adios.